I think it's a really good idea to pull out that phone, start talking to it. Yes, even if you're 40 plus years old, even if you're 50 plus years old, even if your clients are very professional, even if you're in financial services clients, right? You need to do these types of things because the BS meter, okay? The BS meter of people is 100% on when we look on social and we look at things like banner ads, or we see accounting firms post things like stock imagery, people in the office with pearly whites smiling, just so happy to do accounting work, right? It's complete BS, and the clients that you're trying to target, the CEOs, the CFOs, they're not stupid, guys, okay? So I really want to see authentic content from the space. Back in 2016, when I was advising the US marketing director of PwC, I told her, and I told the whole room of partners that flew in regionally, I told them, and I actually took the BS word out of my presentation when I talked to them. It was in there when I was making the presentation, that same concept, but I explained it in a different way. But basically I said, you guys have got to stop with these stock images, with people smiling in the office. It's not going to work. Everyone online now can smell the BS from miles and miles and miles away, okay? That does more damage to the brand actually than it helps you do anything, than it helps anyone sign up for anything or whatever PwC was trying to do at the time. What would I tell your firm that doesn't even know where to start? I would tell you that you need at least a signature piece of content that you can rely on, whether it's a weekly podcast, a weekly show, a monthly live session where the other firms in the city kind of get together, because you can have them on because they're actually not competition, okay? So things that are high value, right? Kind of something like this video. Now, you don't have to go out of your way, go to the redwood forest, you know, come with a tripod and a DSLR camera, come with an hour-long presentation and start spouting off like I'm doing, right? You don't have to do that to make this $300,000, $800,000 from 30 viewers, okay? You could, but what you really need to have is a signature piece of content that saves your firm time, okay? That's my biggest gripe when I'm talking to accountants. They think that they're gonna spend more time marketing, and then that time spent marketing is gonna take away from their business. Sure, it's gonna take away from their time. Like, I'm doing this on a weekend, I'm making this video on a weekend, not my workday time, so it's taking away from my time, but it's not taking away from my business. As a matter of fact, it's adding to my business. And so what I would tell a firm is that if you create an awesome podcast, okay, a B2B podcast where you're inviting guests in your industry on your podcast. For example, I have a client that it's going to have some of the best guests, okay? Why is he going to have some of the best guests? Well, he's in the emerging technologies industry, okay? Blockchain guests, he's going to have them. Crypto guests, he's going to have them. He's already had them. AR, VR guests, he's already had them, okay? Virtual reality, augmented reality, artificial intelligence, all that exciting stuff. Guess what? We get to invite these people in the space to his podcast to talk not about taxes, okay? Not about what the specific thing that he does. They talk about the technology. And so he's able to make a B2B podcast that then his potential clients, they would listen to. And his potential clients are, you know, someone like a software company who develops a new AI algorithm, okay, who develops a new VR, AR application as simple as a mobile app, okay? So that's just one example. If you serve the construction industry, then you need to have all these contractors on your show come talk about, hey, how have you built this city, right? You're doing construction. That's one of the best niches because you have so much to ask these experienced contractors, right? You can even show up at the site and do your interviews there and get incredibly dynamic. And I promise, there's not a whole lot of accounting firms doing that. Why aren't they doing that? Because they don't see the ROI. I'm not going to talk about ROI anymore. I'm just going to talk about how to do it. And so that's what I would do if I was in the construction industry. I would get all the contractors together, all the companies together. I would interview them, see how they built the city, have different topics, things like that. Some of the best podcasts, the fastest growing podcasts in the nation, all the podcasts that you listen to probably, or you see people listening to, a lot of them, they have guests on them, and they leverage the guests to get a lot of the attention, right? So if you make a podcast, I'll tell you right now, not a lot of people want to hear about taxes. I don't care if you're doing advisory. Not a lot of people want to hear about advisory. Not a lot of people want to hear about accountants. I'm able to talk about marketing to accountants because it's something that it's just not here. This content doesn't exist. The content that I'm making in the space, it doesn't exist at all. But if you were to tell me that you wanted to make a podcast that talked about different tax issues, I would tell you, well, there's a lot of podcasts that do it. So if you're gonna do that, do it in a very, very interesting way, okay? And I wouldn't tell you to do it. I wouldn't tell you to really talk about taxes that much. I would more ask you to think about who you're trying to get as a client, who you're trying to get the word out to, and then make content that those people, those entrepreneurs, those CEOs, those C-suite level executives, those decision makers and gatekeepers can listen to, they get value from, and then at the end of the podcast, you say, hey, you either ask them, you go in for your sale, you either say, hey, if you liked what we said, or you think a business that could use this and this and this, you can reach us here. You leave your email and number. You can do it that way, or you can do a little bit like me. I don't ask for anything at all, right? I don't ask you to call me for my services. Hey, we're selling this and that, right? Because I care about my reputation, and I'm seeing against my competition, I'm seeing too many people do that. And so that's why I will grow fast. I won't get into my strategy right now for me, because my strategy would be actually different from yours, but the thesis of making content that people actually want to watch, that is actually valuable to people, that's very interesting, right? And I'm not saying that you can't talk about taxes at all. You're going to want to give tax updates, okay? On the new tax laws, on, if you're in a space that is getting affected by cryptocurrencies, and you want to stay on top of that news. If you're in a space that's getting involved with where your clients, where your niche, where your industry, whether they're businesses or individual taxpayers, okay, you want to address, you do want to address their problems. How would I do that outside of a podcast environment? I would pull up an article, okay? So if I needed to make a piece of tax content today, the fastest way I would make that is I would go on Google, I would type in tax news, and then I would look at the top 10 articles. And this is me. This is only me. Let's say I had to do it, right? So I don't have more. If you're a tax accountant, I actually don't have more tax knowledge than you. I was an auditor at PwC, right? So, hey, I still look at the books. I know accounting, taxes. Yeah, I know a little bit, but I'm not super qualified to talk on taxes. But what I would do to make it very easy, to make it very fast, I would pull up tax news. I would look at the top recent articles that it gives me. I would pick the best one that I can comment on and have an opinion. I would then get in a Zoom conference, or not a conference, but record my screen sharing on Zoom, okay? The new Skype, basically. Everyone's switching from Skype to Zoom. I would share my screen, read the article to my audience, and maybe not the full article, maybe I just care about a graph or a point that was made in the article, and I want to spend 5 to 10 to 20 minutes talking about that article, talking about what I think to my audience. And because it's on Zoom, the webcam records me in my office, or home entrepreneurs in my home office, don't be embarrassed of your home office, okay? I come out here and I show you this because I have a home office, and because I make some content in the home office, the CPA PrimeTime interviews and the article thing that I just described. I tape that in my home office with the webcam. So, I just thought I'd bring you out, give you some scenery as I'm going over this long video, whether you're watching the video, listening to the video, or listening to the audio version of this video. I want to give you some good content, right? So if you're listening to the audio version of this, you might just hear some birds chirping in the background, some water flowing from the waterfall right over there, and that kind of adds to the ambiance, okay? That adds to the ambiance, and I love it. I love it because it's more entertaining for you. I don't have to bore you with my whiteboard home office all the time, right? So that's the way I'm making it a little bit more interesting for my content, showing up different places. On top of that, the main thing that you should be doing when you're making this content is you should be doing business deals. It matters for a business reason, okay? So whether it's you make a 5-minute talk or a 10-minute talk by yourself or a 30-minute podcast with a guest in your space or city, okay, that podcast then needs to translate into business, right? And so I just told you that you can, if you start a podcast today, that client that you've been chasing, especially if they're in your industry, you can then invite them onto your podcast, and then 3 months later, you can start your podcast. You don't have to invite them. You can make your podcast really popular. They'll be wanting to come on your podcast 6 months from now, and then 6 months from that point, because you have them on your podcast, you have a deeper relationship with them. You're always talking to them, messaging and them, commenting on their stuff. They're commenting on your stuff on LinkedIn. It's kind of flirting, right? If you're a guy, have you ever passed by that girl in high school in the hall and you never really made the move on her, but you both kind of know what's up, right? And so that's how I look at these business relationships, right? This certain client, they kind of know what's up with you if you've had them on your podcast, and they may not be ready to go to you for your services. It just might not be the right time. It might not be the right time for you to pick them up, but there's certainly a strategy that we think about over here at Gold Lake, and we do try to get those guests on our clients' podcast that can then translate into business and make business sense. And why do I say it? One signature piece of content is actually all you need? Well, because that saves you time, so that you don't have to make a video every single day, a specific video. Pop out your tripod and your DSLR, and then spend all your time making content instead of doing business. No, put it into your day. If you don't want to get on the weekends like me, make extra videos, you don't have to. You could, and you could grow 500%, but you don't have to. You can actually save your time, make that big 30-minute podcast, which is really, you take 30-minute phone calls sometimes, so it's really a 30-minute phone call with someone, 30 to 45 minutes, and then that 30 to 45 minutes throughout the next month, okay, throughout the next month, it's cut into little segments, and that factors into what you post on LinkedIn, what you post on Instagram, the articles that you then write based off of what was said in the podcast, okay? Video, text, and then you strip the audio, you turn it into a SoundCloud MP3 file, right? You put it out on SoundCloud for free. When you have all that down, you put it on Libsyn. You get the Libsyn distribution model for like $15, I think it is, and then you have your podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Google Music, things like that. Okay, so really, guys, there is a business case for creating content. I don't wanna, you don't wanna pay a marketing firm $3,000 to make a jingle for you, but then all of a sudden, when your podcast is bringing in 30 to 80 viewers at a time, that then is resulting in cash, then yeah, you realize that, wait, a jingle matters in the terms of people are starting to get familiar with our stuff. So when they hear that sound, whether they're scrolling or they just listened to the podcast and then they went to the restroom and that kind of opening sound to your podcast is stuck in their mind, that is marketing, that is branding, that is taking advantage of the human biology. That's taking advantage of easy commercial shareable music. There's a way that we actually make jingles here at Gold Lake that's actually very simple. It's actually very smart. You won't have to pay $3,000 for it. I'm not suggesting that you should pay $3,000 for a jingle, jingle, but a lot of firms do look at marketing as an expense, okay? Expense versus investment, which what it really is if you do it right. And so if you do it right, you'll be saving as much time as possible. You won't be spending all the time in the world marketing, because what you really want to do is you want to integrate it into your day-to-day. Meaning, okay, I gave you the signature content, right? So you're going to go out, you're going to make a show, you're going to make a podcast, right? But that might get you from 50% to 200%. That might be a really good thing, but how can we hit it harder? How can we get to 800% growth, 500% growth? Well, then you're going to have to be telling the story of your firm, telling people who you are, telling people about your culture. And the way you do that is maybe through cell phone videos, right? Selfie cell phone videos in between meetings, in between calls, in between tasks, when a business thought is actually on your mind, right? I just wrote an article the other day of how to create content really fast, and one thing you don't want to do is set aside some type of creative time to then write an article or make a podcast, or actually the podcast one, that would be interesting because it'll basically be a scheduled call with someone, so it will be scheduled. But what I'm saying is you want to, create content when you feel creative, when you just feel it. And so that's why I'm creating this video this weekend, because I just feel it, okay? And I wanted to come out here and make something really special for you. If I would have done it another time, the video would have came out like 75% of my creative, 80% of my thoughts versus 100% when I'm really inspired, right? So if you're inspired in between meetings, I think it's a really good idea to pull out that phone, start talking to it, yes. Even if you're 40 plus years old, even if you're 50 plus years old, even if your clients are very professional, even if you're in financial services clients, right? You need to do these types of things because the BS meter, okay? The BS meter of people is 100% on when we look on social and we look at things like banner ads, or we see accounting firms post things like stock imagery, people in the office with pearly whites smiling, just so happy to do accounting work, right? It's complete BS, and the clients that you're trying to target, the CEOs, the CFOs, they're not stupid, guys, okay? So I really want to see authentic content from the space. Back in 2016, when I was advising the US marketing director of PwC, I told her, and I told the whole room of partners that flew in regionally, I told them, and I actually took the BS word out of my presentation when I talked to them. It was in there when I was making the presentation, that same concept, but I explained it in a different way. But basically I said, you guys have got to stop with these stock images, with people smiling in the office. It's not going to work. Everyone online now can smell the BS from miles and miles and miles away, okay? That does more damage to the brand actually than it helps you do anything, than it helps anyone sign up for anything or whatever PwC was trying to do at the time, right? So you want to be completely authentic. If you're not very proud of your home office and that affects your confidence, then get in a beautiful place like me, right? My home office doesn't affect my confidence, but I just want to give you something interesting, some more dynamic content for you to bite on, for you to eat, for you to consume. What really matters is you knowing that it is possible from a LinkedIn post, from an Instagram post, to grow your business 500%, okay? And how does that happen? Let's say you want the biggest client in the town. The biggest client in the town that you've been chasing for, I don't know how long you've been chasing them. Let's just say that you are chasing one of the biggest clients in your industry, one of the biggest clients in your town. You know you can provide them value, but you've been chasing them. Well, let's say you make a podcast this year, then a year from now, 16 months from now, that client that you're chasing is then chasing you to be on your B2B podcast, that then inevitably results in 3 months after the podcast, they're your client. And that's really how it's working in all other types of industries, right? Accounting firms are just not taking advantage. A lot of people, they think it's about followers, right? Trying to get my followers up. Absolutely not, guys. Followers do not mean anything at all. followers, especially for a firm, they don't equal money. Followers don't equal money, right? I need 1,000 followers. I need 300 followers that are very active, not 50,000 followers that have no clue that I even exist and they don't engage and like our posts, okay? But we're very happy when we post a video because it gives us a lot of impressions, but no one actually watches the video. It just gives us the impressions because it's scrolling past someone's timeline, right? So we want engaged customers, and I'll talk a little bit about how to do that in the content portion of this talk. But what I'm really trying to get across here is that those 30 followers, those 30 people that actively listen to your podcast can result in $300,000, $500,000, $800,000. You have 80 listeners in your podcast, 5 million. It's the truth. Look, I'm not downing you if you're a CPA at a Big Four, right? But you entrepreneurs, you guys that want to grow your business, okay, you guys that want to make a lot of money from an accounting firm, whether you want to keep it in the family, whether you want to take over the city, whether you want to sell it one day, okay, this episode is going to help you do that. I'm going to make it really easy. I'm going to make it really simple for you, okay? If you don't have a podcast like this, like my clients, like other podcasts you see, if you don't have a podcast for your business, let alone your firm, okay? Any business that does not have a podcast in 2018, 2019, and going forward, you are undoubtedly, it's a guarantee that you're leaving some of the biggest deals in your industry, in your environment, in your niche, on the table. You're just leaving them on the table, and it will be so easy for you to interest these people, get on the sales call that you always wanted to get on, right? And have them not only on the call but intrigued because you have sent them the piece of media, whether it's 2 minutes or 2 hours. Like my last CPA PrimeTime I put out was 2 hours, and that's the reason I'm not showing an interview this weekend, because I want to give you something very valuable. I want this to be the most profitable accounting show on the internet. There will be no show that you can watch in accounting that will help your business make more money. Okay, none. Not even the Entrepreneurial CPA show is a great show to watch along with CPA PrimeTime. But if you use the tactics and the strategies that I'm saying here, you're just going to be so far ahead of the curve of everyone else, even if you think you can't do it. So let's backtrack here. I say, if you don't have a podcast, you're just leaving all these deals on the table, right? I know what you're telling me. You're telling me, Juan, I gotta work, okay? I don't have time to make this podcast. I don't have time to be cute. I don't like social media, all this, these vanity metrics, likes, followers. Guys, my clients' businesses are not predicated on likes. They're not predicated on views. They're not predicated upon followers, okay? And I'll save that money-making side of things for another time, but here's why you need a podcast, okay? What you do and what you say to a client, imagine, you have a client, you know how to serve them, right? What you do and what you say to them, that's a big part of your service in the financial services industry. Would you agree that you don't talk to your client and handle your client the same way the guy down the street does? Take a moment. You don't. Everyone's very different, and everyone serves their clients very different. That's why looking at my videos, people choose me over other marketers. Or they watch 2 minutes and they're like, I hate this guy, right? And then they choose someone else, okay? And that's exactly what I want for your business. I want the people that would work with you, the clients that would just love you, the clients that it's not about your personality, right? You don't have to be talking fast. You don't have to be wild like me. You can be slow. You can be, and I know most accountants do speak slow. I actually do, because I talk to them on the phone a lot. And they think before they say anything. They think. They analyze. They're very analytical. So they're very slow. They're very poised. And that's okay, because that works too. Okay? So it's not about being some kind of crazy person on camera. Okay? It's about giving value to the market. And most of all, it's about letting these clients, these potential prospects, know who you are, know how you work, know how you roll. so to speak, okay? And look, you say, the next thing you're going to say is, Juan, I don't have the time to do that, right? Well, I agree. Hey, I only put out one podcast a week. That's not even, I want to be doing episodes every day, but I got to work. So what do? What's my strategy? I book a meeting with someone in my industry, and which for me, it's an accountant, right? For you, you may be in the construction industry. Why do I keep going back to that? Just because there's so many accountants that do that, and so you can find your apply this to your own niche. Okay, so find the entrepreneurs, the business owners, the influencers in your industry, invite them on to your podcast, but except it's what you don't understand is it's basically the same thing as a call, right? Have you ever had a 15-minute call with anybody? A 30-minute call with anybody? This is the same thing, and you ask them questions about their business, just, you record it. That's the only thing. You record it, you put a name around it. I have CPA PrimeTime. My clients have other different names. I'm not going to reveal my clients because I don't want you to steal their stuff. But look, and then on top of that, I don't want you to go out there and start making videos about tax updates, right? Your market, unfortunately, they're just not going to consume that. You can. I have no problem with the people that get out there and are super technical on the tax side of things. That's great. You can make those videos and you can sprinkle them in there. I sprinkle marketing stuff into my videos, right? I sprinkle little personal videos. Look, if your main service is taxes, if your main service is CFO services, there's a lot that goes under that. I wouldn't have the podcast talk about that, right? You could, but if I want to grow fast, if I just want to freaking take over the market, okay, and get all the entrepreneurs interested, I want to think about, if you were my client, I would tell you to think about what the entrepreneurs, those entrepreneurs out there, those business owners, those C-suite level executives, the prospects, the potential clients that I want to serve, what would they be interested in watching that would bring them value, okay? It's not just about bringing them value. They don't want the taxes stuff sometimes, okay? Come on. What do they actually want to see? What do they want to watch? And then give them that. And then at the end of it, it doesn't have to be about taxes. You can get, if you like sports, okay, and back in Texas, you had to talk sports in any firm that you went to, okay? It was a known rule. It's not the same here in Silicon Valley. But back in Texas, you got to talk sports. So if I lived in Texas, I would have a sports podcast where I invite different business owners in my industry that also were interested in sports. And we would talk and we would jam how sports influences our business, how we grow, things like that, but also centered around some sports topics too, right? Everyone in that industry that I would want to work with would watch my podcast and not the guy only talking about taxes or CFO services or whatever else accounting stuff, right? Where does the sale come in? The sale comes in after the meeting. You invite someone that can actually be a client. Yeah, you have that back room, right? Talk, okay? The deal isn't made in the boardroom, it's made in the hallway after the meeting. On top of that, at the end of your podcast, you make the sale, you make the call to action. You say, hey guys, even if it wasn't about taxes, you say, hey guys, if you like what we're doing here, check out our company. What we do is we help business owners with taxes, CFOs. If you do that, realize that it's as fast as recording a call. You kick that audio file to someone like me. That's where I make my pitch. You have the money to spend on someone like me, then all you got to do is spend the time talking, record the file, send the file to someone like me, then we make a really nice production out of it, and that's how you make a call to action at the end of a podcast. Guys, if you listen to what was said here, you will grow so fast and become an authority, become an influencer in your industry. This is one of the most profitable accounting podcasts on the internet, if you use what I'm saying here. Thanks.